welcome. The JsGrassFedGarden podcast, episode 3. Getting this straight. Bear with me for a second. Should really have this set up before I start the video, right? But that's just not what it is. Okay, welcome. JsGrassFed podcast, episode 3. This is me, no edits. Don't forget it, it's not for the credit. And I said it like this, so it goes to last time we checked in was on November 15th. And we're coming to an end of the month. Today is November 28th. So we got 2 days left in the month, and I've been doing a good job at keeping track of the weather. So I'm planning on making a graph starting for the next coming temperatures. And I'm probably going to do these more bi-weekly. I was planning on doing them weekly, but yeah, just working out how I want this to go. So but we're still keeping track of all the temps. So on the 15th we left off, it got down to 17 degrees, and we got our first snow of the month. And I take track of the time and the humidity, but I might just do the temperature so it moves a little faster, and then when I make the graph in the future, you'll see the time and the humidity that it was taking. So it got down to 17, and that's the coldest that we've had so far on November 15th, and we also had our first snow and / fourth rain. So I'm keeping track of all of the rains, and now I'm keeping track of all the snows. So first snow, fourth rain, and then it got up to 38 that day. Wednesday on the 16th, it only got down to 36, and the high again was 38. We had our fifth rain. Thursday the 17th, only dropped down to 36 again, and then by the end of that day, it had dropped down to 33. So the temperature didn't rise for that day. On Friday the 18th, it by the time I had woke up, it went up from 33 to 34, and the high for that day was 38, and we had our third snow. I forgot to say the day before we had our second snow. Saturday the 19th, it dropped down to 24 and got up to 38. We had our fourth snow, and I recorded that the coldest night. No, I don't know why I said coldest night yet, because there was a 17, but it got down to 24. That was like the second coldest night we've had, and I guess so it had gotten down to 17, then it rained and snowed all week. So then when we got down to that, but it was in like the 30s, then when it dropped down to 24, whatever was growing outside of the low tunnels, everything had died in the garden. Besides the spinach and besides the mosh, those are the only things that survived. So moving on to Saturday the 20th, we got our fifth snow, and these weren't like accumulation snows. I guess you could call it a flurry or a dusting, but I am counting them as snows because it did snow. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with that. So the 20th, fifth snow, so just to make clear too, that whole week of the 15th, it did not go above 38 degrees. So I thought that was something interesting as well. So the 20th, 30th, got to 30 degrees, dropped down, and then the high for that day was only 31. Now the 21st, it dropped down to 24 and got up to 31 for that day. The 22nd, we got up the. See, it's weird because so the high for Monday was 31, but then Tuesday, when the temperature is recorded, like in the rising time, the temperature rose overnight. It went from 31 to 42, and then the high for that day was 45. Moving on to Wednesday, the 23rd, it dropped down to 40, and then the high for that day was 45. The 24th, it dropped down to 32, then the high for that day was 49. So we're having a spike up compared to the week before. And then the 25th dropped down to 46, got up to 48, and we had our 6th rain of the month. 26 dropped down to 37 and got up to 48 that day. And then 27th got down to 32 and got up to 50. And we had our 7th rain for that day. So that was just yesterday. And then the 28th today, at like 4:30 in the rising time, it was 47 degrees. So it only dropped 3 degrees overnight. And then it rained again today for the 8th time, and that made the temperature drop. So now it's dropped back down to 44, and tonight it's supposed to drop all the way down to 24. And we're gonna go into our cold lock-in, hopefully for the month of December. So I've also noticed after recording the temperature for a few years now, this is the most steadily I've ever done it, that the day that it changes to the next month, it really starts to feel like whatever temperatures you usually feel in that month, if that makes any sense. Like the day, so it's gonna switch from in 2 days, 29th, 30th, I guess 3, however you want to look at that. Then the 1st of December, it's gonna be like, whoa, it's December now, you know, or vice versa. When it's like from April to May, it's like you just notice that difference. At least I've noticed that, just through my personal observations. So that was all the weather. I know it might have been a little hard to follow, but if anything, this is just a good reference point for myself. And like I said, for the month of December, I'll try to do a graph situation. I got a late season scythe session in, so I was happy about that. The garden's looking good. You can go check out the last few videos. We still got some food growing in the low tunnels. I'm planning to have food through the entire winter. There's a good amount of lettuce in there that can be harvested when need be, and then everything else is kind of reset to do a cut and come again. So once we go above the 10 hours of daylight in February, everything like the mustard greens and the Mizuna Asian greens will start to regrow. I also have some green garlic in there that will be harvested in the early springtime, late winter, and some carrots. And I saw a turnip, a purple top white globe turnip in there. So that would be good. It was my first time really trying the overwinter, so they weren't as thoroughly planted as they could have been. But now that I know how to do it, next year, I'm hoping to have all of the beds in winter production. So I've got my schedules planned out for next season, like in terms of what's going to be planted when. I'm sticking to only planting to a biodynamic calendar, planting leaf crops on leaf days and root crops on root days. And then there's also fruit days and blossom days. And I might try and follow the fruit days, but I haven't found a website that talks about the blossom days. They only talk about it in this book that I'm following, which is the biodynamic calendar. I could grab it, but I don't want to go get up. I could show it next time. So yeah, and I got all my seeds ready for next season. So the first planting will start in, depending on, I got some stuff written on this board over here. Depending on what I'm feeling, it could either be in the first to second week of February, or I could try to get some crops in early January, but that's kind of like pushing it because we're not really at that 10 hours of daylight again where everything starts to grow. So really we're looking at like the first or second week in February. I believe it'll be root day first. It'll be like you get 2-3 day periods of root day crops in the beginning of the month, and then you get 5 to 7 day period of leaf days towards the end of the month. I'm still doing a little bit more research on it, trying to understand it, and I'll share more as I gain more understanding about it. And but I have noticed the difference when you plant root crops on root days and leaf crops like lettuce or pumpkins on leaf days. There is a difference. So I wasn't able to grow any root crops last year whatsoever. And it was my first year, so the soil was like still kind of getting, I didn't till it, but I used a shovel and I really did like mess around with the soil a lot. But this year being the second season, everything's a little bit more established, so everything was like kind of growing better because the soils are becoming more established. But at the same time, I think that the biodynamic calendar really did have a big play in it. So yeah, I'm psyched for next season. I got a grow light coming in the mail Thursday, and the first thing I'll be starting is probably like onions, summer leeks, and beets indoors. And those will go out exactly 1 month from when they're planted inside in soil blocks. I can get up to show this. And I'll be strictly using my soil blockers. That's 20 minis. That's 4 of the next size up. I guess there's a size in between that you can get that I'm trying to get. And then this block goes up to this block. I actually have a video on how to make soil blocks, so you go check that out. Maybe I could leave a link in the description for that. So the first soil blocks will be sown to leeks, onions, and beets. I know I just said that, but I wanted to show the soil blocks. And then after that, so those will grow for a month and be put out into the tunnels in the first root week of March. And at that time, so I'll have root crops already established going outside into late winter, just about to be early spring. And then I can harvest what is already in there that has started to regrow. Like I was saying, all the cut and come again mustard greens that will regrow once we go above that 10 hours of daylight. So harvest all the greens, put out the established root crops, onions, leeks, and beets, and then direct sow beets, carrots, and radishes into the tunnels, along with all of the root crops all of the leaf crops on the leaf days, like the lettuces, mustard greens, and cabbages and kales, and what have. So yeah, I'm just really trying to process all of that and, I got the first season under my belt selling at the farmers market, so now it's time to really get going on it and up the production. But with just a little bit more growing space, planning to double production from this past season. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you for following along. I know the temperatures might have been a little all over the place, but it is what it is. If you could follow it, cool. If not, all right. Thanks for watching if you're still here, and we'll see you on the next one. So hope you have a good day today and tomorrow and every day, and blessings, wholeness, one love. Jay's Grass Fed Podcast, episode 3. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.